the Berlin Wall, grey, cold, imposing, a scar across a city, a continent, a world. Its shadow stretched far, touching lives, shaping destinies. It was in this shadow that our story began, a story of secrets, betrayals, and the silent war that raged between East and West. Our protagonist, a young Hungarian named István, knew the wall's shadow well. He was born in its shadow just a year after its construction. His earliest memories were of its stark presence, a constant reminder of the divided world he inherited. István grew up listening to whispers of the West, a forbidden land of freedom and opportunity. These whispers fueled his imagination, planting the seeds of dissent against the oppressive regime he lived under. Little did he know his life would soon become entangled with the very forces that had cleaved the world in two. Life in Budapest was harsh under the Soviet thumb. The city, once vibrant and alive, now bore the scars of war and occupation. István, a bright and curious boy, learned to navigate this world with a mixture of youthful naivete and streetwise cunning. His world changed forever in 1956. The Hungarian uprising, a desperate bid for freedom, erupted in the streets of Budapest. István, barely a teenager, witnessed the revolution's fervor and the brutal Soviet response. The failed uprising left an indelible mark on István. It solidified his hatred for oppression and ignited within him a burning desire for a different life, a life free from fear and tyranny. This desire, coupled with his sharp intellect and fluency in languages, attracted the attention of a recruiter from the West. A new chapter was about to begin. Whisked away to a secret training facility, István was thrust into the shadowy world of espionage. Here he learned the art of deception, the subtleties of covert operations, and the deadly serious game played between East and West. His instructors, hardened veterans of the intelligence world, saw in him a raw talent, a diamond in the rough. He excelled in his training, his language skills, and innate understanding of the Soviet mindset proving invaluable. He was given a new identity, a new life. He was now codenamed Sparrowhawk, a solitary predator in the heart of the Iron Curtain. Sparrowhawk's first mission was as dangerous as it was crucial. He was to infiltrate a network of Soviet agents operating in Vienna, identify a mole leaking vital information, and neutralize the threat. The fate of Western intelligence operations in Eastern Europe hung in the balance. Vienna was a city of shadows and secrets, a breeding ground for spies and informants. Sparrowhawk, posing as a disillusioned Hungarian artist, navigated this treacherous landscape with skill and caution, always aware of the ever-present danger of exposure. He gathered intelligence, cultivated contacts, and slowly, painstakingly closed in on the mole. Each meeting, each exchange of information was a tightrope walk, a test of his nerve and his loyalty. He was in too deep to turn back. Section 5. The Berlin Game. Years turned into a blur of missions and near misses. Sparrowhawk became a phantom moving silently through the shadows of the Cold War. He infiltrated Soviet intelligence circles, disrupted their operations, and provided invaluable information to the West. His courage and cunning earned him the respect of his superiors and the grudging admiration of his enemies. His most daring mission, however, took him back to where it all began: Berlin. The wall, a concrete manifestation of the Iron Curtain, had become a symbol of oppression and division. Sparrowhawk was tasked with facilitating the escape of a high-ranking Soviet scientist, a man with vital information that could alter the balance of power. The escape was fraught with danger. Every step was a gamble, every move scrutinized by the watchful eyes of the East German Stasi. But Sparrowhawk, driven by his unwavering commitment to freedom, refused to back down. The success of the Berlin operation came at a cost. The mole Sparrowhawk had been hunting a trusted colleague and friend, was exposed and eliminated. The betrayal cut deep, leaving Sparrowhawk questioning his own judgment, his own sanity. Was this the true cost of his double life, the sacrifice of trust, of friendship on the altar of ideology? The lines between right and wrong, truth and deception began to blur. Sparrowhawk, haunted by the faces of those he had betrayed and those he had lost, found himself questioning the very cause he had dedicated his life to. Was it all worth it? The Cold War, for all its talk of freedom and democracy, was a dirty war, fought in the shadows with whispers and lies. Sparrowhawk, the once idealistic young man, was becoming a mirror image of the enemy he fought. The years of living a double life took their toll. Sparrowhawk, once full of fire and purpose, was now a shadow of his former self. The weight of his secrets, the constant fear of exposure, and the moral compromises he had made had eroded his spirit. He was a ghost haunting the corridors of his own life. He requested reassignment, seeking solace away from the front lines of the Cold War. He was given a desk job, analyzing intelligence reports, a far cry from the adrenaline-fueled missions of his past. But the past had a way of catching up. One day, a familiar name surfaced in a file he was reviewing. It was a name from his past, a name that brought back a flood of memories, both good and bad. The name belonged to a woman he had loved and lost, a woman he thought had betrayed him years ago. Driven by a desperate need for closure, Sparrowhawk embarked on one final, unsanctioned mission. He had to know the truth, even if it meant risking everything he had left. His search led him down a rabbit hole of deceit and treachery, uncovering a conspiracy that reached the highest levels of power. He discovered that the woman he loved had been a pawn, sacrificed to protect an even deeper secret. The realization hit him hard, shattering the last vestiges of his faith in the cause he had served. The Cold War, he realized, was a game played by powerful men, a game where pawns like him were expendable. His report, smuggled out at great personal risk, exposed the conspiracy and sent shockwaves through the intelligence community. It also effectively ended his career. He was disavowed, his actions deemed rogue and reckless. He became a liability, a ghost in the eyes of his former masters. The Berlin Wall eventually fell, its shadow lifting from the world, but for Sparrowhawk the scars of the Cold War remained. He lived the rest of his days in self-imposed exile, haunted by the ghosts of his past. He knew that the world was a better place without the war, without the constant threat of nuclear annihilation, but he also knew that the seeds of conflict, of mistrust and betrayal still lingered. The Cold War might be over, but the world was still a dangerous place, its fate hanging in the balance. As he moved his lone king across the chessboard, replaying the moves of his life, he couldn't help but feel a cold wind still blowing, a chilling reminder that the game never truly ends. It merely changes players.